Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Therapy. I'm your host, the one and only Cat Matthews. Now, normally, I would be apologizing for the episode being late, as it always is. You know, I am very busy. You heard me say it a million times. I'm not going to bore you again with that rant. But this week, however, being late benefited us, the viewer, and me. Because, wow, look what happened the past couple days. And if I had done the episode midweek like I planned, we would have missed a few things. I don't know, like the new pandemic or aliens, which is what is going to be the main focus of this episode. If I had rushed it and done the episode on time or early, I was planning on talking about Ilhan Omar saying World War XI, the Epstein chicken scratch suicide note they found, the Kentucky Derby, the reflection pool that Trump is, making into an Olympic pool. That's kind of boring, like that's what you would have got if I hadn't been busy and we pushed the episode off to the weekend. So thank God we did, because we're going to have a much more interesting episode now. And this is my time to shine. This is what the Midnight Therapist does, is break down these things in a way that's simple and effective. That's what we do at therapy. We break stuff up, we decompartmentalize, and we make it more easily digestible. And that's what the Midnight Therapist does. Now, again, I'm just a cowboy in the basement. I don't know anything. What do I know? This is all just a comedy podcast. But we're going to cover some stuff today. And I just have a question, like, what is a conspiracy theory at this point? Like, can we really even use that term? I said it many times before on the show. That was a term the CIA invented. I think they used it first on the Kennedy assassination to discredit those that were critically thinking and inquisitive. They used the term as a disparaging term to call someone like a nut job, a conspiracy theorist. And it stuck, and it's still being used. But I don't know if we could use that anymore, because this news cycle, just this year, granted the last 10 years or so, but just this year alone is unfathomable. Like currently. But if you were to tell someone, I always say 10 years ago, they would never believe a word of what you were saying. Like if you heard the alien stuff 10 years ago, you would say, what? But this is already old news. So I want you to keep that in mind, the idea of a conspiracy theory and what that really means as we dive in here, which we're going to do. My life's been busy, yada, yada, yada. Little life recap before we start. It was my father's birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to him, Tony Cat. Mother's Day is tomorrow. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. If there's any mothers watching the show, or women at all, and you happen to be a mother, happy Mother's Day to you. That's about it. My life got derailed here with all this stuff, so I got to get this episode out. I'm sick of talking to people about it. Random people. I need to talk to my audience, because you guys are the only ones that care and that get me. So let's jump in. Hantavirus. This is a word you probably never heard before, but now you're hearing it everywhere. You're probably confused. We are going to unpack this together, so no need to be upset, no need to fret for now. But let's get into what Hantavirus is and what's going on and why people are talking about it. And again, I am not I'm not a journalist. I'm not a peer-reviewed scholar. I'm not claiming to be super credible. I'm not claiming to have any credibility whatsoever. I'm just a cowboy in the basement here. So again, this is a comedy podcast. So we're going to get into some subjects today that are sensitive for me, because you couldn't talk about these things a few years back, like COVID, for example. But we're gonna talk about it today. So just for the record, things are a little better now, a little bit more freedom. So we think freedom of speech to say things. But there was a time where you couldn't talk about any of this. So I'm going to make sure that never happens again. And we're going to say exactly what we want to say. We're going to cut to the chase, trim the fat, No fluff, no sugarcoating. Okay, so Hantavirus was this Dutch cruise ship. People on a cruise stopped in Argentina on April 1st. Now, Argentina just so happens to be one of the only places where this Hantavirus exists. And by the Hantavirus, I mean the specific strain called the Andes strain that exists in Argentina and some other places, but primarily Argentina. The problem with the Andes variant of this virus is that it can spread human to human. So once a human is infected, a human can then give it to another human. Keep that in mind. Now, this is rare and unusual. You don't often see human to human spread, but with the Andes variant from Argentina, you do. The hantavirus comes from rodents, their urine, feces, and some person was exposed to this infected rodent and brought it onto the ship. I'm just catching you up to speed here. This is old news. You should know this, but if you don't, you're getting it from the most reliable news source out there, which is this show. Now, granted, people from all over the world are on this ship. In fact, it's from 23 different countries. There are people from 23 different countries on this cruise ship. That's not good. And just so you know, 3 people have died so far, and 150 people are still on that ship. Now, these are estimates, give or take, you know. But once hantavirus was confirmed a while back in April, you got to remember, it was in Argentina April 1st, then they kind of said this is probably hantavirus. A bunch of people left and got off the ship early. 40 people, just about 40 people, they think, got off the ship from all over the world. 7 of them being Americans. Keep that in mind. And these Americans went back to their home in America. They went to Texas, Georgia, Virginia, Arizona, and California. Now, here's why that's a big problem. The symptoms of hantavirus appear 1 to 8 weeks after exposure. Now, usually it's about 2 to 4 weeks you start seeing symptoms, but it could go up to 8 weeks. Now, if you were exposed to this in April, you might not show a symptom until late May. That's, why it's a problem, because they're back in the United States. They're back to their home countries all over the world. They went to Sweden and they went everywhere that were probably exposed to this rare and deadly disease. Now, how deadly is it? I did all my research. You could fact check me if you want. 40 to 50% mortality rate for the Andes variant of hantavirus. And usually mild symptoms at first, like fever, fatigue, headache, nausea, the normal. And then it goes to critical overnight. So within a few days, you have a headache, and then you're dead with hantavirus. And there's no cure and there's no vaccine. The only thing they're going to do to you is put you on a ventilator or oxygen, which sounds familiar, right? Keep in mind the conspiracy theory remark that I addressed earlier in the episode. Just keep that in your thoughts. The U.S. owns several patents on hantavirus vaccines, but they are not publicly accessible yet. So that's getting you up to speed here. Now, let's compare, because we need a frame of reference. Our worldview is based off a frame of reference. Will this be the next pandemic? Now, a pandemic once every 100 or 200 years, maybe. You have, we just had a big one. You probably remember it, COVID-19. We're good. We're done. We had our once in 100-year pandemic, and I don't think we should have another one in 6 years, but it appears we probably are. And if you want my opinion from the Midnight Therapist, from Cat Matthews himself, I'm going to tell you, yeah, I bet you this is going to be the next pandemic, and it's probably going to be a real pandemic. Or let's say more deadly than the last. And the only reason I say real pandemic, I'm not saying COVID was not a real pandemic. I'm saying COVID was a 1% mortality rate. Keep that in mind. This is a 50% mortality rate. And it has to do with infected rats and their feces and pee, rat piss. You know what that sounds a lot like? The bubonic plague, the Black Death. Um, the plague that took out 1/3 of Europe and lasted 300 years. Sounds more like that. Now, not to say COVID wasn't bad. COVID was horrendous. We're going to get into why it was, but this will be catastrophic if this happens. Now, why do I believe that this will be the next pandemic? Simple. Keep it simple, stupid. Remember that? Here's why I believe it. Because all the malicious, manipulative, indoctrinating propaganda media networks, ABC, NBC, CNN, Fox, they're telling me not to panic about Hantavirus. That should be a red flag. These companies, these media outlets, their whole business is to make you panic. That's their job. So if they're telling you not to panic, it's time to panic. Do you understand that? I never saw something so quick. They're like, oh, this is nothing. Don't worry. It's nothing like COVID. It's not going to be a pandemic. What? Their whole business is to fearmonger and get everybody freaked out. And now they're telling me not to panic? I'm going to panic. We still haven't gotten over the COVID pandemic, which forever changed the world permanently. We haven't even processed and gotten over that yet. So I don't know how they think they're going to spring another pandemic on us so soon, especially with the world being the way it is. Now, I never did this on a show, like on an episode of the show. I talked about it many times with people, but it is hard to keep up with an exact timeline of COVID at what happened. I want to do it one day, though. I might do a whole episode dedicated to it. But the narrative changed so much over time that I want you to remember that. I know it was traumatic and I know it was years ago, but don't forget, because especially with AI and everything, they will change, they will give you false memories, they will alter history and make you think things didn't happen, even though you know they did. So on this show, I'm going to give you a brief little dip a toe into the COVID timeline, but I might do a more extensive, thought out whole episode dedicated to that. But you got to remember, COVID, same thing. It was a weird little obscure thing in China, no big deal. And then it was in Italy. And then when it got to America, they said maybe 2 weeks to stop the spread. Remember that? And then it turned into a pandemic. But they said the same stuff. Don't worry, it's not a big deal. Who cares? Remember that. And then COVID, like I said, changed the world forever, ruined the economy. Social media started banning certain things and censoring things, and the lockdown made people go insane. And the stimulus checks forever messed with our economy. It divided the nation. It made people more skeptical of science and vaccines, lack of trust in the government. It made Donald Trump lose the 2020 election and other things. But that was a major factor. The economy still didn't come back from COVID. And that was, the same type of thing. This is a disease, a virus that turned into a pandemic. And quarantines came with that. And I don't want you to think that that can't happen again. Because it most certainly can. And I bet you it probably will. I'm telling you, I think this Hantavirus is not going away. Like this is going to happen probably in May, probably this month, if not early June. But this should be all that we talk about right now because of how important COVID was. I think a lot of people try to suppress COVID and what it was, and they try not to think about it, and they don't want to think about that time. But there was no accountability for COVID, and a lot of people still feel odd about that. There's like trauma and there was unfinished business with COVID. No, we never got to the bottom of it. We still feel weird about it. We feel weird about the vaccines. A lot of people feel this way. They don't want to talk about it though, because they don't want to offend other people. And a lot of people have family members and loved ones that died from COVID. And a lot of people don't trust the vaccine. So it's a touchy subject. But it needs to be talked about, because if we don't talk about history and learn from it, it's going to repeat itself over and over and over again. But essentially, COVID, what it was now, what we can say now, you couldn't say any of this. You couldn't even remotely bring up stuff like this in 2020, you would get kicked off. You'd be demonetized. You would not have social media. And maybe even worse would happen. You might lose your job. You couldn't bring any of this up, which is, interesting to think about. But what COVID was a accelerated virus. They were performing gain of function research in Wuhan laboratories because the United States of America banned gain of function research because it was too dangerous. Anthony Fauci, who is a major player in the world of health organizations, whether it be the WHO or the CDC, he's been involved forever. Had a rough past. If you look that up with HIV and certain things that were done with that, you could look that up on your own. But this guy's been in government and health his whole life. And the reason he's there through multiple administrations is because he plays ball and he does something for those in power. Now, keep that in mind. And he makes a lot of people money. That's the only reason you stay in Washington through multiple administrations, if you're playing ball and bringing something to the table. Now, Anthony Fauci dealt with Wuhan Laboratories. He had a connection there. Wuhan Laboratories is doing gain of function research on a COVID strain of a coronavirus. They say it came from wet markets and bats and all that. But what really happened was they were accelerating the deadliness and severity of a virus so that they could make a vaccine for a more advanced, deadly strain of a virus, so that if one naturally occurred, they already had a vaccine for a stronger one. Now, that all sounds fine and good unless the virus gets out, intentionally or unintentionally. Now, that did happen. It got out. I don't know how, but it came from that lab. It was accelerated to have a dangerous spike protein. Look this up if you don't believe me. That was unlike any other that we've seen naturally occurring. It went from species to species. It went right to human, and then human spread. And the way it spread was odd because you could be asymptomatic and not even know you have it and then spread it to people. That seems by design. But anyways, it gets here and it shuts down our whole country. And what they did to us during that time was sort of like an experiment to see what we would tolerate, and the shutdowns and the businesses lost and the chaos that they put on us. We all kind of were pretty, subservient to that. We were submissive. We went along with it. A lot of us wore the mask that didn't work, and they admitted it didn't work and never worked. A lot of us followed the guidelines, and most importantly, a lot of us got those shots now, and boosters. Think about that. Now, if you ever want to have a level-headed discussion with someone that, let's say, they believe everything they hear and they think everything was on the up and up with COVID, just tell me this. We gave unlimited money to, these malicious companies, Pfizer, J&J, Moderna. We gave all this money to them, unlimited checkbook, to come up with this vaccine, and they came up with it very fast. And the reason they came up with it was because they skipped over all the prerequisites to get a vaccine approved that we put in place, like the 10-year placebo study and all those checks and balances to make sure there was no deadly side effects or harmful side effects nonetheless. But skipped over that because we did something called emergency use authorization. And the only way you could have emergency use authorization is if there are no other treatments for a disease or a virus. And there were alternatives, but every one of them were completely shut down by the government and the powers that be in these health organizations, and like ivermectin and monoclonal antibodies and all these things that may have helped. They told you that that's pseudoscience and fake news, and Rogan promoted ivermectin, and they doxed him and made him go nuts. They put a filter on him, said he looked yellow and he was going to die. I remember everything they did. I hope you remember too. But they get this vaccine rolling, and they tell you it's a vaccine, which you believe, the common person believes, is an immunization, which we're used to. Immunizations make you immune to a disease or a virus. That's hence the term immunization, immune. This was not an immunization. This was not a vaccine. This was an mRNA gene therapy, previously used for cancer. Don't ever forget that this alters your genes, alters your genetic makeup, your hormones, and it duplicates a similar response to a virus. And I'm not a scientist here, but you understand this, right? Because obviously people weren't immune to COVID. They would still get COVID even though you had the immunization, which doesn't make any sense. That's why they said you have to get multiple shots and boosters, which that's not how an immunization works. So we remember all this. The people that pay attention remember all this. And the shots, they were making them. We have no idea how much they charge the government with our taxpayer money to buy them. We still don't know that. But the government fronted the bill to give everybody free shots. They could have been $20,000 each for all we know, but it was our taxpayer money that paid for it, so who cares? The government doesn't care. It's not their money. It's house money that they could blow on whatever they want. Now, what's funny and indicative of that is they were so desperate to get people to use the shots because they wanted these companies and the government wanted to make money. They thought we were so dumb. If you remember, they were like, "We'll give you $100 to get the shot." You remember that? They're like, "We'll give you a cheeseburger." Look that up if you don't remember. The governor of California, I believe, or someone was like, "We'll give you a cheeseburger if you get the shot. Free cheeseburgers if you get your COVID shot." We lived in that dystopian world, and a lot of people fell for it. And I want people to remember this. I'm bringing this up. A lot of people remember this. Some people might not remember this, but this all happened, and it could very well happen again. Now, we don't even know what the effects of the COVID vaccine is going to be, or having COVID in general, and having a long COVID side effect thing. Who knows? But the side effects of probably the vaccine, most importantly, we have no idea what's going to happen. It's too early to tell. It's only been 5-6 years. Sometimes they take 10, 12, 20, 30 years to show up. But heart injuries seem to be a thing. Hormonal imbalances, autoimmune disorders seem to be connected to this. And there's going to be no accountability for those companies. They probably have full immunity, like they can't be touched legally because the government set that up because they said it was a pandemic and an emergency. So anyways, that's your COVID recap. Now, COVID hits hard for me because that's when I was graduating. I was a senior in college at the time, and I said goodbye to all my friends on spring break, and then I never saw any of them again, and then the job market collapsed, and it turned into a pandemic. And I never got to walk at my bachelor graduation. I actually got my master's degree since then, and I plan to walk at my graduation for my master's degree this weekend. And how odd that another pandemic is about to start up. Let's hope I make it because I'll be very pissed, and I don't want to have to go back for a doctoral degree. Like colleges will even be around anyways in a couple years. They won't be. Anyways, will they do this again? Yeah, probably. Probably. Like I said, the COVID mortality rate was 1%. Hantavirus is 50%. So will this be a mass extinction event? Like I talk about many times in the show, like a reset, a global reset. Could be. A lot of people hypothesize what that might be, an asteroid, meteor, AI. This is looking like it could be that. And it's scary, but you can't worry. This is out of our hands. We can't control this. We don't know why this is happening, and we never will. But this is just another thing that's going to bog up the machine and cause it to implode. This system can take many things. This country, society, it could take many things individually. It can't do a lot of things at once. We are bombarded now. This is too much at once. The world is at war. You're going to add a pandemic. And now they're also trying to add aliens to the mix. And this is the next thing we're going to talk about here. They're releasing these UFO files like it's no big deal. This would have blown anyone's minds a couple years ago. Now, granted, there's not too much definitive proof in these files that's going to shake the world, but there are these odd orbs and tic-tac stuff that you've probably seen before, and these weird stars and 8-pointed stars and Apollo 11 old mission photos that had orbs or aliens in it. That's weird. But orbs launching from other orbs and flying discs, and there are weird stuff that looks alien. Who's to say it's not our own shit? Who's to say it's not another country's shit? I don't know. All these videos happen to be coincidentally extremely grainy and low quality. Interesting. Some of the stuff in there looks fake, like some of the alien photos look fake. But this stuff is odd nonetheless. These videos and photos and reports that came out, like Bob Lazar, if you know Bob Lazar, was talking about this a long time ago. U.S. Air Force pilot David Grush, that's his name, I think, he kind of reassured Lazar. He said that there is reverse engineering programs and bodies were recovered. And he got other guys like Ryan Graves, and David Fravor. They were like Navy pilots. They're saying the same stuff. You got all these different high up military and government officials saying that these are interdimensional beings. They're angels, they're demons. They're not necessarily green alien men. They're like interdimensional. They're spiritual beings. Like, this would normally blow people's minds, in a normal society. But in the fast-paced nonsense world where all the lines are blurred and you can't tell what's real or fake and AI, and you don't know what to believe anymore. But again, another prediction I talked about a long time ago, many times, was Project Bluebeam or Operation Bluebeam. If you don't know what that is, it's the government faking an alien invasion to unite the people under a global government, because it will be a threat and an enemy that we can all agree on, where we come together to fight that enemy, the other, the ultimate other, an extraterrestrial alien or an interdimensional visitor, or who knows. There's reports saying that they're friendly and they're peaceful. Who knows what to believe? But how do we even process this? How do I go to work on Monday? How do I do anything? Why are we all still paying our taxes? I'm just like, they want you to believe that the aliens are coming and that there's a 50% death rate pandemic coming and the world is at war, but they want you to still pay into the fake system they invented. I don't get it. I don't get how we're all doing it. It's one or the other. It's one or the other. Either the world's over and we're free and we're done, or we still have to get up and go to work and pay tax every day and the world's not over. It's one or the other. But the goal of the elite, the ones that run the country and the world, has always been mass confusion. Now I'm going to go on a rant here and then we're going to be done, because this is a little much. The media, whatever form of media, the writers of history, whatever that is always the one that controls the narrative. History is written by the winners. You know this. So how does the media get to us? How do they sell you something? It used to be newspaper, it used to be paintings, it used to be scribes and books, but then it evolved, and now we have, let's say, TV. And let's break down what that is. And I've done this many times before on the show. Me and Mike the Barber talk about this all the time, but I'm going to do it again for you good people out there. A TV, television. That's what that thing is to do. It's to tell a vision, someone else's vision to you, for you to watch it. And what do you watch on a television? You watch programming. Back to your regularly scheduled programming, right? Programming. They're programming you. They tell you what it is. How do they talk to you? Through channels. Where are the programs? On the channels. Channels. I'm telling you that. What did the TV used to be called? It used to be called the idiot box, right? That's what old timers used to call it. What's it called now? It's called a smart TV. Just like your phone is called a smartphone. The TV and the phone, they're both black mirrors. That's what they are. They're black mirrors. That's why the show is called that. That's planned programming. All these devices, no matter what the technology, sooner it'll be AI or a VR headset or a chip in your brain. But either way, it's just another vessel to do the same thing. What they're doing is planned programming, ideological subversion, subliminal messaging, and psychological operations on you through these methods and through these inventions, let's say. Think about what AI is: artificial intelligence. Artificial meaning fake. They tell you exactly what they're doing. And then who controls all this? Who controls the messaging? A lot of people would say Hollywood, right? Hollywood was the one that invented this manipulation, right? The movies and television and all that. Where does Hollywood come from? Hollywood, the name comes from the holly tree, and the branch of a holly tree is a major symbol in pagan occult rituals. The branch of a Hollywood tree is what a magic wand is. And what is a magic wand? It's a device used to cast spells. Do you know what the word spell originate? Like the gospel of the Bible means good spell. This is a good spell. There are also bad spells. Just like alcohol, there are good spirits. Go to a store, fine wine and good spirits. There's also bad spirits. It's all right in front of you. We just don't care to pay attention because all the wonder and beauty of the world is stripped from us at such a young age where nothing is valuable or important. The only thing valuable is how much fucking money you have or what car you drive or how big your house or dick is. But in reality, this world is such a beautiful, cool place and everything's right in front of you. All the answers are right in front of you, but you're too blind to see because your focus, your programming is on nonsense. Now it's brain rot. There's always something to occupy your time with sludge and slop. And if you could get your mind off it, you could see what's really going on because they tell you what's going on. They have to tell you because I said this a million times. It's called revelation of the method. They have to tell you or it's bad karma. They tell you exactly what's going on. Who is this? Who's they? We always wonder who they is. Is it the Freemasons, the Illuminati, the Vatican, the Jews? Is it the deep state? No one knows, but it's people that, here's the thing, all those groups I just listed, we know they exist. It's not a 3-letter agency from our government. If you knew who it was, it's not them. If you know who it is or you have an idea who it is, it's not them. The people that's really doing all this, you have no idea who they are and you never will. And the people that you think it is are the people they want you to think it is. They make it very Hollywood. They make it, no pun intended, they make it the scary people with the robes and the symbols. And yeah, they show that to you. That's your entertainment. That's your WWE. That's how you could speculate who you think it is, but you'll never know who it is. You'll never know who it is. Now, let's just have some fun here with this on a lighter note. It's coming up all over social media now, the Illuminati, that's who we obviously think is running everything, right? Look up the Illuminati New World Order card game from the 90s. Now, I went down the rabbit hole with this. It's nuts. There are cards in there that are like too spot on. Like there's a 9/11 card titled Terrorist Nuke, and it's like 2 towers getting blown up. There's a card that looks like Trump, and it says, enough is enough. And it's like a picture of Trump's face. And it says, our snipers could take you out at any time. It's crazy. But the weirdest one is the epidemic card. Look that up, like the quarantine card, like the pandemic card. This is from 1994, and it's showing people in body bags, the vaccines, the masks. Like it is crazy that came out in 1994. Now, here's what's also weird. The creators of that card game were raided by the Secret Service, and they seized all their stuff. They took their computers, notebooks, everything in their house. And these guys ended up suing the Secret Service and winning, but a lot of their assets were seized. How odd. I thought that's all just fake. That's just, fun entertainment. Maybe there's some credibility to that stuff. And that makes me think of the weirder conspiracies. So we talked about some legitimate ones today that seem a little more feasible, right? And then you're like, oh, but some people believe the real wacky ones. They're crazy. What's a conspiracy theory anymore? Why does that card game exist? And why is it so spot on? Like, all jokes aside, someone tell me. Like, is it a coincidence? I don't know. Let's talk about Donald Trump while we're on this rant of unbelievable conspiracy theories. Policy aside, I'm not getting into his policy. I'm not getting into Iran. I'm not getting into any of that. This guy, like that Trump card exists, is odd. Now, Trump was kind of a big player in the Q stuff, the Q clearance and the Q drops and all that. Look up the tarot card deck if you ever got your cards read on tarot cards, which, black magic, stuff like that. There's a card called the Magician in a tarot card deck, and it looks just like the guy, the magician on the tarot card deck. Now this pagan shit. He's wearing a white robe with like a red robe on top. Now, everybody was like, Trump shared a picture of himself as Jesus. It's sacrilegious. Jesus really never wore a red robe like that. I'm going to be honest. He never really did. Some depictions have red and sometimes even blue, but mostly just white, but never the red robe like that. I'm being honest. Some Catholic variations, yeah. But what Trump looks like he's wearing, now that you can compare the two, is the magician from the tarot card deck. Look that up side by side. Now, what's he saying there? What did I say with the Hollywood and the magic and the casting spells and all that? Like, it gets a little odder when you see it from that lens. It gets a little odd, you know? And in that AI picture that Trump shared, where I believe he's dressed up like the tarot card magician, he also he added, or whoever made the AI, he told him to add, to take out a soldier that was there up in the clouds and replace it with this other entity that looks like a somewhat of like a demon wearing a pointed crown. Now, here's where it gets weirder. We talked about this on the show many times. Statue of Liberty wears a pointed crown like that, right? I, like many others, I don't think it's that far fetched to believe that the Statue of Liberty is based on Lucifer. I said this many times before. If you look up the depictions of Lucifer, 7-point crown, he's the light bearer. He holds a torch and he's chained at the foot, usually in artistic depictions of the fallen angel Lucifer. Statue of Liberty is holding a torch and has the 7-pointed crown, and the face looks very similar to Lucifer. And you know, there's a chain on the Statue of Liberty's foot, and it's broken. The only thing is it's broken. Some speculate that means that Lucifer is able to run free here in America, and he's the beacon of light. Come here. You can sin all you want here. This is the place of sin. The French architect that, or artist, whatever, that designed the Statue of Liberty was a Freemason, just so we all know. And a high degree one nonetheless. But that figure up in the clouds on that AI that Trump shared has the pointed crown. Little weird, right? Nothing, and now they're talking about aliens and being demons and all that. Trump is very calculated. Don't think anything is by accident. He didn't accidentally share that. He didn't accidentally not know what that was. Everything he does is intentional, and he messes with people that aren't paying attention. And he gets them all riled up, and the people that aren't paying attention, whatever. They don't matter anyways to people like Trump. Now, we're talking about the revelation of the method. He has to tell you somehow what he's doing. You know, he has to tell you, and he kind of is. That's why he does that. Well, why is he even sharing those AI pictures? Because he has to. You know, he has to reveal the method. Like, who knows? Maybe this ballroom is the temple. Maybe it's the third temple, the Solomon's temple. Who knows what he's doing with Israel and all this? Like, it is getting crazy, but he does want to do crazy things. The ballroom and the arch, and that's all intentional. You don't just do that by accident. You know the implications and the backlash you're going to get. And if you choose to do it anyways as the president, it's on purpose. Nothing is on accident anymore. Now, the weirdest thing about Trump is his connection with, like, Back to the Future 2 and Biff. You remember the character Biff had the almanac, and I talked about this many times. Me and Mike the barber talk about this. Trump having a time machine of some sort. Now, this is all in fun. These are the fun conspiracies, right? So I don't want you to think that I'm telling you this is a fact. But you got to remember Donald Trump's uncle, John Trump, MIT engineer, brilliant guy, dealing with quantum computing and nuclear engineering and crazy shit. He was the one that went through Tesla's files, Nikola Tesla's files, when he died. The government picked him to go through the files, and he concluded that nothing was there. Nothing in Tesla's personal house. No files, no schematics, no blueprints, no inventions, no ideas, no nothing. He found nothing. Is it so far-fetched to believe that Trump knew what he was looking at? Trump's uncle knew what he was looking at, took it and ran with it and used it to benefit him and his family's life? Probably. I would say. The Ingersoll Lockwood connection. You know, Trump invents the Space Force, his first term. The Space Force is connected to a company called Ingersoll Lockwood. Look it up. Ingersoll Lockwood is the name of an author from the 1800s that wrote books called The Little Adventures of Baron Trump and The Last President. And this is from the 1800s, you know, keep that in mind. So does Trump have a time machine? Is Trump dealing with stuff out of our power, out of our, like, that we can't even fathom? Who knows? Who knows? The time machine thing is very interesting, though, to have fun with this and talk about it. Because you should be able to talk about this. Who knows if it's real? Who knows? So, like, don't say, oh, this is all fiction. I don't know. I'm just telling you inconsistencies, and I'm just a cowboy in the basement, so what do I know? But that White House Correspondents' Dinner, Cole Allen, I don't know if you saw Henry Martinez. It was the sole tweet of a guy named Henry Martinez from 2023. He just put up the post. It said Cole Allen. This is in 2023. Now, this guy, he worked at Lockheed Martin as an engineer, and he also worked at NASA around the same time that Cole Allen did. Little odd, right? Why did he just put Cole Allen up? I mean, not many Cole Allens out there. But what do I know? That Twitter account, Henry Martinez, the back cover photo was from a website that was called like Time Machine dot something, and that picture appears to look like Trump holding his fist up after the assassination. And then the cover photo is the frog wearing a tuxedo, that the same tuxedo that Trump was wearing. I don't even know what to say anymore. Maybe these are all just coincidences, but it's really hard to believe that it is, right? But this stuff will fry your brain. I miss the fun conspiracies. I miss the chronovisor and the cynosyphilis and all that fun stuff. But these ones are getting they're hitting a little too close to home. And I really don't know what a conspiracy theory is anymore. Who knows what's going to happen? But this week you have Hantavirus, which will probably be the next pandemic. I'm telling you that right now. Mark my words. It's my prediction. And it'll be on the internet until they take it down. So if you want to check this in a couple weeks or months, just say, oh, he was right. And these UFO files are probably Project Bluebeam, and they're probably going to lay it on thick for the mass extinction event that they probably want to happen for a global reset, is my prediction as of now. Now, maybe this will go away in a week, and maybe everybody will forget about the aliens, and maybe people will vote in midterms over oil prices. But probably not, right? Probably not, right? Trump hints all the time that there won't be another election. You won't have to vote ever again. And he's going to be there for 8 or 9 more years. He's building the ballroom. Like I said, I don't think he's building that ballroom for the next guy. So buckle up. Things are about to get very weird, but this is one of the weirdest turn of events I have ever seen. World War III, Hantavirus, and UFOs in the same timeline was not on my bingo card at all. And to think we thought 2020 was crazy. Now, 2020 was crazy, but for different reasons. But 2020 mostly was a very confusing time where we saw the fabric of our country completely degrade. 20 million illegal immigrants, unchecked, unvetted, entered the country. Social fabric got destroyed. Irreversible damage happened for sure, but you thought, all right, Trump's back. Maybe he'll fix it with his unfinished business. And it seemed so promising at first, but I think we're losing the plot a little now, right? We've been losing the plot for a while with Iran and loyalty to Israel and certain things. But did you ever think there'd be another pandemic under Trump, or that there would be aliens like being talked about by government officials under Trump, and Trump releasing these alien files? See, nobody cares about Epstein anymore. Nobody cares about Iran anymore. This is the new thing that they want you to look at. They're dangling the carrot. It's a magic show. It's sleight of hand. Trump's the magician. He's the greatest showman. I've been saying this forever. He is the greatest con man showman there has ever been. And he's dangling these carrots in front of you, so you look at them. What's going on behind the scenes, you'll never know. But trust me, nothing is on accident. This is all on purpose. And you and I, if you're lucky, have a seat to the show, but we're not on the world stage. We're watching it. We might be enjoying it. But some people have nosebleed seats. Some people are right up front. Some people are in the parking lot. And some people are 5 states away. But just remember, if anyone's on the global stage, anyone's on that world stage, they're meant to be there. Nothing happens on accident, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing. So stay hopeful. Don't worry. Find yourself some inner peace. Get good with the Lord. Find Jesus. Save your soul. Because that's all you can really do. And worry about your own little life until it comes knocking at your door. Then you could panic. But until then, plant a garden. Do something. Buy a new power tool. Use it to build a deck like me. And just stay calm and have faith. That's all I can say. and love. I know it sounds cliche, but love. Let go of the hate. Can't control it anyways. Can't control all this shit anyways. Just love people and say your sorries. Make peace with yourself and others. That's my advice. That's my therapeutic recommendation for inner peace. This episode is brought to you in part by Jack's Pub and Eatery and Three Saints Barbershop, located in the heart of historic downtown Jessup, Pennsylvania. Also, Picardo Jewelers. I love you all. Try not to freak out. Remember, you heard it here first. Show your grandma this. Put this on for Mother's Day for your mother when you're having mimosas and brunch. This is the only legitimate source of information you should be watching in 2026. I am uncompromised as of now. And I probably never will ever stop doing this the way I want to. I did it my way, like Sinatra said, you know? As always, stay curious, my friends. Good night.